Hello and welcome to CRATV, where we talk about politics, policy, and politicians, all from a conservative perspective, right here in the great state of California. So please take a moment, like and share the program so that your friends can join in the conversation as it's taking place. Also, if you're watching us on YouTube or you're watching us on Facebook, if you want to hit the notification button, you'll get the notifications as soon as we go live, and you can participate in the live chat as the program is taking place. And just so you know, I know you've been seeing us at 6 p.m. on different days, but just so you know, from now on, every Wednesday, CRATV will be coming to you live at 6 p.m. Pacific. So please take a moment, mark it on your calendar, set your time aside so that you can enjoy, once again, the conversation as it's taking place. I also want to remind you, CRA is a membership organization. We are California's largest and fastest growing grassroots Republican and, more importantly, conservative organization in the state of California. We work to help elect conservatives. We're talking about conservatives who believe in the right to keep and bear arms, who believe in the right to life, who believe in traditional values, limited government, lower taxes, a strong national defense, you name it, the conservative position, that's where the CRA is. And we have been, since 1935, working to help elect like-minded conservatives to every office from dog catcher all the way up to President of the United States. In fact, former President Ronald Reagan referred to the California Republican Assembly as the conscience of the Republican Party. As I like to say, you can either be part of the solution or you be part of the problem. Don't be part of the problem. Become a member today. Just click on the join link in the description to this video. Also want to encourage you to take part in our Take Action program. That's right, we give you the ability to speak out on key legislation that's going to be impacting us here in the great state of California. All you got to do is follow the Take Action link in the description to this video, and it'll take you to a list of bills that we're following. Each bill you'll be able to go in, you'll be able to read about the bill, you'll be able to read the actual text of the legislation, you'll be able to read an analysis of that legislation, and then if you feel so inclined, and I hope you do, you can send a message to the folks who are about to vote on that legislation. All you got to do is, once again, just right there in the thing, there'll be a message. Just click on the message. You can either send the message that's there, already pre-written, or you can modify it and make it your own and make sure that it's sent. But once again, you have the opportunity to be engaged in making your voice heard in the legislation. The best part is at the bottom, at the end of each email, it says, this email is sent courtesy of the California Republican Assembly. So it lets them know, yeah, we're letting you know what's up. So please take a moment, participate in our Take Action program. All right, let's get on to it, shall we? We all know that big things seem to be happening, unless your head's been buried in the hand unless your head has been buried in the sand somewhere. Big things are happening. There has recently been the release of information, or a release of an opinion from the Supreme Court. Now, evidently, this opinion basically has noted that the Supreme Court will likely be overturning Roe versus Wade. And needless to say, this has caused quite a bit of an uproar from many folks on the left. In fact, you've seen people from all over the place pretty much just talk about what they were planning on doing and how they were planning on standing up and fighting against this particular legislation. And in California, needless to say, they are making their voices heard. And I just messed that up.
Governor Gavin Newsom teamed up with top state lawmakers to change California's constitution to explicitly state a woman has the right to an abortion.
My goal is to get this on the ballot for November, working with the stakeholders and partners.
The draft released by the Supreme Court to overturn Roe versus Wade would hand the power back down to the states. California already has protections in place. Planned Parenthood of California CEO Jody Hicks said, if this leaked draft shows anything, it's that 50 years of legal precedent holds no water.
If we can put any layers of protection, not just for today, but for our future generations, then, I'm personally grateful that they're willing to do that. And, this is the first time that we're leaving to our children less rights than we had.
Leaders say they're preparing for an influx of women from across the country, as about half the states are projected to ban abortions once the decision is finalized.
All right, so what they're talking about here is that there's a number of different things that are going to be taking place, and what you see here is the Senate leader, Tony Atkins, who is basically working with the governor's office to introduce a constitutional amendment to the state constitution for California, which would basically say that that Californians have a right to an abortion. Now, once again, it'll require a 2/3 vote in the legislature. A 2/3 vote in the legislature, and then a simple majority of those of voters should it be on the ballot in November. Now, I think it's important to understand that there's a lot more than what they're talking about just having to do with just abortion. There's a lot more that is potentially at stake here, and I think in these two quotes coming up right here, you'll see that the President of the United States hints at this is much bigger than the issue of abortion. At least that's what they're trying to make us believe.
If the rationale of the decision as released were to be sustained, a whole range of rights are in question. A whole range of rights. And the idea we're letting the states make those decisions, localities make those decisions, would be a fundamental shift in what we've done. So it goes far beyond, in my view, if it becomes a law and if what is written is what remains. It goes far beyond the concern of whether or not there is the right to choose. It goes to other basic rights, the right to marry, the right to determine a whole range of things. Because one of the issues that this court, many of the members of the court, a number of the members of the court, have not acknowledged is that there is a right to privacy in our Constitution. I strongly believe there is. I think the decision in Griswold was correct overruling it. I think the decision in Roe was correct because there's a right to privacy. There can be limitations on it, but it cannot be denied.
All right, so what the president is in essence saying here is that because of this quote-unquote right to privacy, and by the way, just so you know, in the decision that was written, once again, this is the draft decision, right? This isn't the final decision, but in the draft decision, Justice Alito went out of his way to note why this decision, the decision relating to abortion, is different from any of the other social issues that they're talking about. And that's because there is a secondary individual involved in this concern. And that is the child who is in the womb. Because remember, when we're talking about a woman's right to choose, we're talking about a woman's right to choose to end the life of her child in the womb, right? That's what we're talking about here. They don't like to use those terms. They don't like to use that terminology. They don't like to say that because they don't want to remind you that is in fact what we're talking about. But that is in fact what we're talking about. And just so you know, the President of the United States is not the only one who's talking this way.
My worry is that this is just the beginning. Next, they'll go after gay marriage and maybe the board, what is it, Brown versus Board of Education? Yeah. They already eroded our voting rights a little bit. Yeah. So I see fascism down the line here. I don't know.
See, now once again, you guys caught that, right? So she made a huge leap from abortion, the right to take a life of another individual, and all the way to Brown versus Board of Education, saying basically, watch out, black people. They're going to be coming after you. You're going to be in trouble because they're going to be able to overturn this. And then she made the leap right over to fascism, right? And by the way, just so you know, fascism has largely historically been put in place by the left, by the socialists, whether it was Mussolini or Hitler. Yes, Hitler was a socialist, National German Socialist Party. That's what he was the head of. But once again, the scare tactics are a-coming, and they are putting them in full bloom. All right. And now not only do you have that, and just so you know, it's not just limited to national people who are engaged in the scare tactics.
At a time when countries around the world are expanding liberties, expanding freedoms, expanding rights, here we are in the United States of America about to roll back rights. The entire history of the Constitution is been about the expansion of right. The entire history of the United States has been about expanding rights, not restricting rights, not rolling back rights. And this Supreme Court is poised to roll back constitutionally protected rights. And don't think for a second, this is where they stop. And if you think it affects someone else over there, this is about you. I mean, if the right to privacy is not foundational, they're coming after you. They are. Fill in the blank. Who is you? It's us. It's all of us. Across a spectrum of issues. You think for a second same-sex marriage is safe in the United States of America? Pay attention, America. They're coming after you next. That's not hyperbole. It is not hyperbole. Watch this space. If privacy is not constitutionally protected, this opens up panoply of issues.
So now I want you to remember who you just heard talking. This was the individual who basically shut down businesses, ruled them to be non-essential, and ended thousands of businesses, put out of business thousands of small business people, entrepreneurs in the state of California. This is the guy who's telling you that rights are going to be taken away. This is the same guy who had our schools shut down, right? Shut down all of our schools. Inflicted upon our children the loss of up to, and some people say 2 to 2.5 years of education, right? That's how much of an education loss there has been because of that guy, right? Because of that guy, that guy right there, because that guy right there, that's how much education has been lost. And yet and still, he wants you to believe that, now we're taking away rights. You know, it's funny because the right to an abortion, which once again, he calls it a constitutionally protected right, but notice he doesn't call it a constitutionally enumerated right. For those of you who do not know, the right to an abortion came out of a right to privacy. You heard them multiple times talk about a right to privacy. This was a right that was contrived and made up by an activist Supreme Court, and really, and quite frankly, most objective or conservative, but conservative and objective constitutional scholars will tell you it was a wrongly, poorly decided decision. It was made by a group of jurists who decided that it was not their job to interpret the Constitution, which, by the way, we all know. What is the job of a judge, of a justice? The job of a justice is to interpret a situation based on constitutional law and precedent, right? They want to ignore what the Constitution says, what the law says, and all they want to focus on is what they believe is right. Because there's a whole school of thought out there, mostly on the left, who believes that their job is to right wrongs as justices, right? And once again, right wrongs as they see it. Not interpret the Constitution, not to apply the Constitution, but to right wrongs as they see it. And so now you have Gavin Newsom, who is now going to be engaged in the process of implementing policies. And by the way, just so you know, when we talk about Rahm Emanuel, when we talk about Democrats and we talk about these crises, they are making this a crisis, right? And we all know, as Rahm Emanuel said, never let a good crisis go to waste. And that's exactly what they're doing here, folks. They are working to make sure that it does not take place. And that's the reason why I'm encouraging you to take action and be a part of our Take Action plan, our Take Action program. Here's what's happening. They are going to now push to create a West Coast wall of wokeness, right? This West Coast wall of wokeness is going to include everything from taking away your right to keep and bear arms, to taking away your right to make decisions regarding your own personal private property. It's going to include high taxes. It's going to include tax the rich. It's going to include things like not just making abortion or codifying abortion as a constitutional right here in the state of California, but also instituting programs where individuals are going to basically be brought in to California in order to get abortions. We're going to become an abortion sanctuary state. Now, We've already done that with those who've come into our country illegally, otherwise known or formerly known as illegal immigrants. And how has that worked out for us? How many times have we seen reported in the media the number of murders that have taken place, the number of crimes that have taken place, rapes that have taken place? Not necessarily, and I'm not just saying by individuals who are in the country illegally, but I'm saying people who have broken the law and are in our country illegally, and then broke the law again to harm people. People who've been removed from the country and brought back multiple times, but know they'll be safe in the state of California, right? You're going to start to see laws like bail reform. You're going to see now where people are just going to be let out on the streets. There's not going to be any bail. There's going to be no way to hold them accountable, where we've seen individuals, once again, arrested and released. There was one guy who in California who was arrested 3 different times in one day. 3 different times in one day, and was released each time until he finally hurt somebody. That is the state of California. So when we start to see the California unicornian laws, and by the way, many of them have already been introduced. And trust me, if you follow the Take Action link in the description of this video, you'll find some of those bills. And we're going to be adding more of those bills, because one of the other things that they like to do in the state of California is they like to do this thing called a gut and amend. That's where they take the language that is in and otherwise, as innocuous as a Democrat bill can be. But they'll take all the language out, and they'll put a whole new group of language in that does something completely different. And then they'll work to push it through the process. So there's going to be a ton of those bills that are going to be heard. And folks, right now, it's vitally important that we make our voices heard, right? We need to let people know that this will not be tolerated. The West Coast wall of wokeness, otherwise known as the Sierras, we're not going to allow you to build that. That is not going to happen. But it's only going to happen if we stand up and we fight. So please take a moment, become a part of our Take Action program. Go right now. Go take a look at the bills. Even if you've been there before, look and see if any bills have been updated. Look and see if any bills have been added, and make your voice heard on the legislation that is there. Also want to encourage you, if you're not a member of the California Republican Assembly, become a member today. It's real simple. Just follow the join link in the description of this video. Become a member. When you go there, by the way, you'll see a list of chapters. If you want to become a member of a local chapter, it's real simple. Just look. We've got chapters up and down the state, and new ones forming every day. So become a member today. It's really inexpensive. Trust me, it costs you less than a cup of coffee. Less than a cup of coffee a day. How about that? Less than a cup of coffee a day for you to become a member of the California Republican Assembly. So become a member today. Well, that's going to be it for this episode of the California Republican Assembly. I want to encourage you, California Republican TV, CRATV, encourage you, please take a moment, become a member. Please remember, like, share, subscribe. Encourage your friends to do the same and become a member of the California Republican Assembly, the conscience of the Republican Party. Talk to you again real soon.